Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. Today we have 4 more new outstanding stories, and let's start with the smallest of them. Not your average IDWHL. My wife just called me, leaving the Bullseye store, saying, "You're never gonna believe what just happened to me." We'd just gotten back from eating out for a celebration dinner, so we were a bit more dressed up than usual, and she had run over to the store for some errands. "What am I wearing?" she says. "Oh, I like this game." "No, seriously, do you remember what I'm wearing?" Red dress shirt and khaki." "Oh, no." "Yeah, it's not exactly what you're thinking, but you're gonna love this." So this particular store is undergoing renovations, meaning there are numerous aisles extra tight and you can't fit more than one cart down it at a time. This means that my wife has been parking her cart and walking down the food aisles with her arms crossed, browsing for cereal and chips, etc. She notices employees were acting strangely. She'd see them chatting, restocking shelves, and as she'd approach on her prowl for foods, they'd suddenly be quiet and seemed to be working extra hard tonight and would offer her a professional good evening as she walked past. Strange, she thought, but she figured they were just being extra professional. After about 15 minutes of odd glances from the employees, she was starting to feel uncomfortable. She noticed they'd formed some sort of pack, an employee pack or EP, and they were whispering amongst themselves. Suddenly, the bravest of the bunch, employee man, or EM, seemed to be nominated from the EP and walked over to my wife. EM: "Excuse me, ma'am, are you LOD tonight?" You what?" "Our lead on duty, do you work here?" She looks down at what she's wearing and face palms. No, I'm just a customer." He then looks back at EP and shakes his head. The EP breaks out in laughter and goes back to work. Oops. "Well, that's a lovely shirt you have. It's not bullseye red, but a nice rosy red." He's just digging himself a hole at this point. Thanks. Have a good night." And she walks away quietly. She then proceeds to finish up her shopping, and now the employees are all snickering as she walks past them. When she finally got to the checkout, she sees the actual lead on duty, who's in her red dress shirt, and the only other person in the store in khakis. Exercise physiologist versus the Jock. This happened to my wife when we were first married. She works as an exercise physiologist, EP, at a hospital. She helps design exercise regimes for people with physical impairment. It's not the same as a physical therapist, but the science is from the same family. She could be a personal trainer with all of her professional certifications alone. While neither my wife nor I are chiseled, we do work out regularly. We like to work out together. So we were in the free weight section of our small town gym, and my wife is correcting my posture while targeting my shoulders. She's very technical, and I'm being turned on by it, so we're somewhat serious, somewhat flirty. Our gym language is a combination of trendy exercise cliches and double entendres that could be mistaken for language a professional trainer would use in directing a client, or the thinly veiled come-ons a man desiring his wife would use. As she is instructing me, this person we'll call Jock is sort of hovering around us. He's taking an interest in what she has to say because it's pretty much destroying his technique of throwing weights up and down while breathing heavy. Only my wife wasn't passively aggressively picking him apart. She was talking to me about what I was and wasn't doing. He's so important, though, that everything in the room must have something to do with him. So he decides to interrupt us. "So are you a personal trainer or something?" My wife looks at him confused and says, something. "So are you a trainer?" "I'm an exercise physiologist," she says. "Well, for someone who should know better, you don't." "Excuse me?" "Yeah, you're talking crap about me to your client, and you don't know what you're talking about." He's not my client." "For a trainer in a gym, you should be aware words carry." I start tapping to the beat of the 80s song Voices Carry onto the bench, and under my breath, "Hush, hush, voices carry," while my wife responds to the Jock. I wasn't talking about you. Please. I'm not gonna stand for an employee who's all boobs and brains talking crap about me." Blink, blink. Everything goes dark. I was about to go critical, but my wife presses on my shoulder and gives me the "I got this" squeeze. With all the rage one feels towards a mid-meal lecture by a vegan on the immortality of meat, my wife explodes. "I don't work here. Before you started shrinking your acorns with roids, I dissected a human body in cadaver lab for the purpose of actually seeing how muscle groups interact. Now I work in a hospital. I don't care about you or your poorly executed routine. Leave us alone. I'm going to report you. My wife is now just foaming, and the Jock doesn't get around the corner to the check-in desk, and the gym's owner's coming over. He'd seen the whole interaction on CCTV and could hear most of it. The Jock then begins to make his case. Your employee here was talking crap about my workout. I want her gone. Yeah, she doesn't work here. Well, then why is she training him? I don't know, but she isn't one of my trainers. My wife points at me and says, he's my husband, and this guy interrupted us while I was instructing. The owner put his hands up and gestured for a pause. I saw the whole thing. He then turned toward the Jock and said, your crude comment just canceled your gym membership. I want you off my property. What kind of place tolerates berating members? I'm the victim. No, you disturbed this couple, then made an unacceptable comment. We don't tolerate lewd sexual remarks here. Like I'd F her chubby butt. A mushroom cloud is detected coming from my wife, so the owner stands between us and the Jock. Out! The Jock throws his towel by the owner's head and goes to the locker room. My wife's law enforcement, the owner says. He's getting trespassed as soon as he emerges from the locker room. You guys okay? My wife says, oh, yeah, we're fine. I'm sure my husband's meditating on sharpening his shovel. He says to me, you don't look mad. I tell him I'm thinking happy thoughts. My husband's a Marine vet, my wife says. The owner laughs and says, after that, I thought you were the vet, ma'am. Excuse me, I have to call the police. Please go into my office so you're not seen and this escalates any further. You've done this before, I say. Well, not with this guy, but I did used to own a bar. The Jock was as spineless as he was forward. He was very apologetic in front of the officer, but was still made to sign a notice stating he knew he was no longer allowed on the property, and if he shows up, he'll be arrested for trespass. I've seen him a few times around town. He'll duck his head when we notice him. Take off your name tag before shopping. So to preface, this happened a few months ago. My work requires me to wear a white collared shirt with the company logo stitched on, along with a name tag. I just finished a 14-hour shift and needed to get some groceries before heading home, was still wearing my uniform, name tag and all. I walk into the dairy section when I hear an old lady behind me say, excuse me, young man, could you tell me where the flour is? She must have been at least 80, and I did happen to know where the flour was, so I decided to help her. Here you go, ma'am. That's when another customer started snapping and saying, hey, to get my attention. She will be AL for annoying lady. AL, get some butter for me while you're at it. I'm in a hurry. Please ask someone else. I don't have time for this. Just get it for me. I don't work here. Ask someone else. Clearly you do. You're wearing a uniform and you helped that woman over there, so stop being rude. At this point, I realize I won't be able to convince her that I don't work here, so I just start walking away. She's having none of that and starts snapping again while yelling, hey, I'm not done with you. I need to see your manager. I continue walking, pretending not to hear her. I'm almost at the registers when she puts her hand on my shoulder as to stop me. Are you deaf? I'm talking to you, dummy. That's when I get lucky, because the manager of the store happens to be right by the registers. So he gets over to us and asks, is there something wrong here? This idiot refuses to help me. I tried telling her I don't work here. The manager says, ma'am, he doesn't work here. Then why is he wearing the uniform? You just trying to get him off the hook? Look at the logos, ma'am. They're not the same. That's when she goes silent. She just looks for a second at our shirts, then she walks off. The manager says sorry to me and walks off towards AL. The sweet little old lady overheard all this and came over to me and said, I'm so sorry. I thought you worked here. Customer gets owned by CEO. I used to work for a well-known greeting card company in the UK. I had this customer come in. She spent about 30 minutes looking over the cards we had out on display. After she picked the card she wanted, she came to the tills to pay. Once the cards were all put through, she refused to pay the price, demanding a discount, to which I replied to her that I'm unable to give her a discount. She still refused to pay the price, saying she's friends with the CEO of the company and that she always gets discounts in this store. I've been in this store for over 18 months and had never seen her before. And as a manager, we're the only people in the store able to amend prices on the system, so she never got a discount before, to which I reply, if you were friends with the CEO, then they would have given you a discount card. She said she was never given one, so I replied again that I cannot give you the discount. She then got very upset and started shouting that she was going to call the CEO and he was going to fire me for upsetting one of his friends. When she finished the call, she made this big song and dance saying that I will get a phone call in a sec, telling me to give her a discount. Here's the fun bit. Unknown to this woman, that 5 of the other people in the store were from the head office, so I knew I was not going to get a phone call at all. As the time went on, I said to the customer, "So no phone call. Are you going to pay for these goods?" When she asked for the discount, I said no again. Now, I knew the CEO was in fact a woman, and she was in my store just watching the whole thing play out. Once the CEO had had enough, she walked up to me and interrupted this customer and told her that she was the CEO of the company, and she told the customer that she was not going to get a discount for the goods she wanted. If she didn't want to pay the price, then she could just leave. She didn't believe the CEO was the CEO as she was not dressed in a suit, so she was very rude to her, calling her a lying bee. At this point, the CEO was about ready to knock this customer out, but she didn't. Instead, she came up with an even better idea. She asked the customer to leave the store, but she refused, which is where the CEO asked me to call security, so I did. Once they turned up, it was like 30 seconds as they were next door. They removed the customer from the store and had her outside. While she was out there, we had a banning order written up, and the CEO signed it, this banning order. This was banning her from going into any store that belonged to this company and others that belonged to her trading group. Just really put the nail in the coffin. The security had to call the police. She started to try and have a fight with them, so she got arrested and was banned from entering the center. Bad news for her is she had parked her car in the car park and she was not allowed to enter. Once the car had been there for 30 days, it'd be towed and the customer would have to pay it back. Moral of the story, do not lie to people. She paid a very heavy price for wanting a discount. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.